The Edmonton Oilers have a major problem following two disastrous games in the Northeastern United States this weekend against Washington in Philadelphia. All that more today on Oilers Digest. Welcome back to the channel for yet another, what seems to be a rerun from yesterday's game, where again, just another awful performance by the Edmonton Oilers. We'll get into that, but first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do so. We are on the road to 2,800 subscribers and eventually hitting the big one, 3,000. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and get us one step closer. But without further ado, let's get right into the weekend woes. Yes, yesterday, after that awful game against the Flyers, the Oilers seemed to throw the game tape in the garbage bin and begin afresh with the new lines heading into today's afternoon game against the Capitals. Kris Knoblauch blending the lines even more so than usual, with the all four lines changing, not really touching the defense, but of course, Podkolzin and McDavid in captain, which was a very interesting line heading into this one. And then Perry, Draisaitl, and Matthew Savoy, who came off a very, by my standards, a pretty solid not NHL debut. They already had that in Buffalo. An Oiler debut yesterday with his first NHL point. And of course, Victor Arvidsson, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman. And then Jeff Skinner, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. So just trying to shake up, the bottom six there by putting, some more brand name players down in there. But it didn't really get the Oilers anywhere today, as the Oilers dropped this one 7-3 to Alexander Ovechkin in the Washington Capitals. Just taking a look at the scoring summary here. A minute 42 in, Leon Draisaitl in his office from the stick of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins makes it 1-0 Oilers, and the Oilers look to carry that into the first intermission. But in the last 3 minutes of the period, there Tom Wilson and Jacob Trickern there after an awful Victor Arvidsson, a penalty that he took, cross-checking there after a whistle after Calvin Pickard scooped up the puck, and that led to Jacob Chicken with an absolute muffin on Calvin Pickard there from the point. Don't even think it left the ice there. Beats Calvin Pickard clean on the 5-hole, and Washington just running away with it there. You can see Alex Ovechkin with 2 goals in the second period alongside Connor McMichael there. Yes, the other Connor Mick in this game. And then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Jeff Skinner added 2 more for the Oilers, but that was not enough, as Dylan Strome and Alex Ovechkin one step closer to Wayne Gretzky's record with his first career hat trick against the Edmonton Oilers. And yes, the Capitals take this one 7-3 off of, I can't really place the blame on one specific person. This was, again, a team loss, a very disappointing team loss, to say the least. They're Washington leading the shots on goal counter 34-25. Edmonton 16-15 in favor of the hit counter there. Of course, lots of people on Twitter, they're saying the Oilers were too small against the Washington Capitals today. I don't think that was the reason why they lost this game. It seemed like pretty much for a majority of this one, Washington had a 5-on-5 power play. They were controlling the play inside the Oilers zone, and as soon as the Oilers, gained possession of it, they lost it right away. So the Oilers not really getting a whole lot of momentum in this one. Washington, of course, showed everybody why they're one of the top teams in the National Hockey League, capitalizing on both of their power plays. Of course, the Oilers only capitalizing on one of their 3 power plays. Of course, Kris Knoblauch, like the Oilers start, he said, "I thought it was an excellent start. Good pace, both teams skating well, chances at both ends, and the goaltenders made some really big saves. But then they continued that pace, and we dropped. They were able to just make a lot more plays. They they were outskating us, and we looked like the slow team, and the slow team was an understatement, of course. The Oilers, puck possession-wise, just not having it at all today, fighting the puck once again like they did yesterday. Of course, this video could have been a rerun of yesterday's. I could have just replayed the Flyers video in favor of this one and say, here's exactly what happened today. But for the Oilers, it just went from bad to worse. Of course, yesterday I felt like there was a glimmer of hope against the Philadelphia Flyers. Later on, they could probably get something going, but against the Capitals, not a chance they were going to get anywhere close back into this game. As you can see there, the analytics, Washington, all over the Oilers today. Not very similar to the recent game they had at Rogers Place, where it seemed like the Oilers significantly outplayed the Capitals, but goaltending got them in this one. And goaltending, for the most part, yeah, it did bite the Oilers against the Capitals today, but it was just a Molotov cocktail of everything that just went wrong for Edmonton this afternoon. Just taking a look at the hockey stats here, Nugent-Hopkins, yeah, he had that goal in the third period. Jeff Skinner, after that abysmal game yesterday, sort of bounced back, but I thought the best forward today was Leon Draisaitl. He's been the Oilers' best forward all season long, consistently, alongside of course, Connor McDavid, but of course, Connor McDavid been very streaky, and quite recently, he has not been himself other than, the Four Nations face-off. I can't ignore that. Of course, on the international level, he's been fantastic, but on the Edmonton level, the club level, just hasn't been his dominant Connor McDavid ways. You can see there at the very bottom, again, just another awful game from Matisse Ekholm in Evan Bouchard here. So, of course, a good chunk of Edmonton's success comes from those two. When those two are down, well, boy, the entire team can be down. Just taking a look at the rest of the defensive pairings, not just 5-on-5, but in all situations there. Again, nothing to write home about there. Of course, Brett Kulak and John Klingberg were a pairing, but I think the Klingberg experiment, it either coming to an end or send him down to Bakersfield to get some more conditioning in, because boy, he's been very, very lukewarm, very mediocre in my eyes. Sure, he's had his bright moments, but he's also had his moments where it's like, where what is he doing out there on the ice? Sure, if he's was sheltered in the seventh defenseman spot, sure, put him there, knock yourselves out. But in a top four spot in the year of 2025, John Klingberg, not by any metrics should he be out there playing big time minutes. But of course, Nurse and Emberson, they didn't have the worst game, but they also didn't have the best game there. I thought, Ty Emberson throughout the season, or as the season's been going on, he's been one of the Oilers' most steady defensemen, and he's been such an upgrade over Cody Ceci, which speaks volumes. Of course, Cody Ceci, in his time as an Oiler, sure, he performed in Game 7s time and time again, but he just wasn't as consistent. But Ty Emberson is the rocking horse, or the rocking chair defenseman that we needed back there for a long, long time. And just looking more at the forward analytics here, Matt Savoy playing the lowest out of any of the Oiler forwards there with 10 minutes and 37 seconds. I thought, he would have been staple to Draisaitl for a good chunk of the third period just to get him, some more momentum, some more time out there. But of course, the Oilers and prospects not knowing exactly what to do with them at all times there. But again, nothing to write home about for most of the Oiler forwards here. Just fighting the puck all afternoon, and it's not something that we've seen all season long. But again, when the entire team is down, they certainly show it there out on the ice and halfway through the third period. I was like, what am I doing with my time right now? But through thick and thin, I mean, always support the Oilers here. And then, of course, Connor McDavid had his thoughts on this one. Obviously, two different styles of game. Of course, Edmonton a bit slower, but Washington just rush after rush at you, and they frustrated the Oilers, and they did it quite well. I thought we had the puck more against Philly, and we gave them offense. I thought today we struggled all around. They played well. Picks did a great job just keeping them at what we kept them at, or what he kept them at, but we weren't very good. Sometimes this happens after breaks, sometimes come out flying. Some teams come up flat. We've obviously done the latter, so we got to get back to it from here. Of course, Connor McDavid suffering a bit of the Four Nations hangover in his last 4 games here. The 2 before the Four Nations, the 2 after. He is a -11 in all 4 of those. Of course, maybe I would have suggested he take these last 2 games off, but of course, Connor McDavid, being Connor McDavid, the workhorse that he is, I was not even thinking about that for a second, taking these 2 games off. But I think it would have done him a little bit of wonders here, just to, get a break from everything, because he didn't get a break during the Four Nations at all, playing big time minutes in every single Team Canada game. Sure, there were 4 of them, but they were all condensed in a short period of time. But for Connor McDavid in plus minus, sure, I don't always base everything off plus minus. I think it's an awful statistic to begin with, but when it comes to a great player like he is, yeah, you kind of have to put that under the microscope. Periodically, not all the time, but periodically. But of course, folks, who we're having the discussion again, the elephant in the room here with Oilers goaltending. Yesterday I did it with Stuart Skinner. Today I'm doing it with Calvin Picker. There, 6 goals against and expected goals against at 3.71. We'll just round that down to 3.7, but a goal saved above expected there, -2.28. Of course, like I said, not everything was on Calvin Picker today, but a good chunk of that was. I mean, you need your goalie to make big time saves for your offense. Get that confidence, not just your offense, but your defense. If you give your defense confidence in the way you play, things go a whole lot smoother. A well-oiled machine. No pun intended there, but just taking a look at Calvin Pickard, I don't really see him against top teams too often there, and you can see why with the stats here from NHL Sid of Oilers Nation on Twitter. Check him out. Fantastic analytically here when it comes to breaking down anything and everything with every position that the Oilers have on this team here. But it even goes back to last season, too, against top teams. Of course, Florida, Carolina, Dallas, Toronto, and even when he was thrust into the starter net for Edmonton against the Vancouver Canucks in the second round series last year. But even continuing into this year against Winnipeg, Detroit, New Jersey, of course, he had that big win against the Minnesota Wild. But these last couple of games, when it comes to Calvin Pickard in top teams, you can see why they shelter him with a save percentage of .891 without relief appearances. I'm not just going to talk about that stat here because, of course, when it comes to relief appearances, that's not really fair to him. But for a full game, an .891, of course, when it comes to Calvin Pickard, he was, again, like Stuart Skinner, thrust into the role that he's in right now. Of course, when Jack Campbell decided to, not even decide to stop a beach ball for the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, Stuart Skinner moved up, and Calvin Pickard brought up from Bakersfield, and he was supposed to be a veteran goaltender and sort of a last-ditch effort for the Oilers when it comes to being a goaltending call-up. So, of course, not everything is on the goaltending, but a very, very good chunk is. And just this team would be so much better if they had, a goaltender that you could actually trust. If you could give me rookie season Stuart Skinner again, sure, I'd be happy with that. But the way that he's sort of, tanked these last few years. I tried to find a better word, but tanked was the only one that came to mind when it comes to Stuart Skinner and the Oilers, because the Oilers, defensively, they are one of the best teams in the league, but when the opposition does have their chances against the Oilers, those seem to go in, and that is just very concerning, because the point where we're at in, the Oilers, cup window with McDavid and Draisaitl, and Bouchard still on his, cheap deal and everything around the Oilers, you need a goalie. You need a goalie bad, and I'm going to say time and time again, I'm sure lots of you in the comments are going, oh, not this goaltending talk again, but I'm sure lots of you are going, yes, we need a goaltender, and we need a goaltender bad. It doesn't matter what you spend to go get a goaltender. Spend future, spend, players that are obviously expendable, like Victor Arvidsson. But just go get a goaltender. Gibson, of course, was hurt last night against the Boston Bruins, so not too sure on his status. But Karel Vejmelka, he's been talking with Utah about an extension. Utah is still kind of in the wild card race there. But if they're not able to get anything done, go after Vejmelka in Utah or anybody else. Bennington in St. Louis, sure, I talk trash about him all tournament long for the Four Nations, but in big moments, he does big-time things, and the Oilers desperately need one of those to advance to an even bigger level. I'm sure there's not a much bigger level that they could advance to, but in the Stanley Cup Finals, all they needed in the first 3 games was just a few key stops for the Oilers to get their wheels going offensively, but they went down 3-0, and sure, they brought it back to Game 7, but they should have never got to Game 7 if one of those 3 losses was flip-flopped for the Edmonton Oilers. But it's not just goaltending. Kris Knoblauch says, I think everyone in that room can be a bit better, some more than others, but I think collectively we can step it up. There's not a flip a switch. There's nothing we can do immediately. Everyone just has to be a bit better, whether that's on our back check, our breakout, our passing, our penalty kill. Everything can be a little bit better. And Chris, you summed it up perfectly, man. Just this whole team is in a funk right now coming out of the Four Nations face-off. It's like, going from Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid to, McDavid and the supporting cast of the Edmonton Oilers, outside of Leon Draisaitl, Matisse Ekholm, Evan Bouchard. It's just a whirlwind of change here. It's like going to a Michelin star restaurant for Team Canada, and then you go to your old high school cafeteria for the Oilers. Like, well, I kind of miss what I had, but you don't appreciate what you had until it's gone. But for the Oilers, hopefully we don't lose the appreciation for what we have. But there's still lots of Oiler hockey on this road trip, and hopefully it doesn't go from bad to rock bottom here for the Oilers with our What's Next segment here for the Oilers. Yes, that was only the second game of their 5-game road trip here, but for the Oilers, it's getting a lot worse here, or hopefully it doesn't get a lot worse, with their Florida road trip Tuesday and Thursday against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and their first trip to Florida, or the Panthers rink there since Game 7 last year, June 24th, 2024. Yes, I still have that date wrapped up in my mind. There weighs on me like a heavy stone, but those next 2 games will not get any easier. And what you don't see there is their game next Saturday, or this Saturday, I should say, against the not the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes. They have all the Southern teams wrapped up in my mind, but I also have this stat wrapped up in my mind from Chris Yastrzemski here. of the NHL and TNT research team against the top two teams in each division this season. Edmonton now 1-8-2 and have been outscored 45-27. So that's not exactly the most inspiring statistic, but they still have ground to make up there. And this is their first 3-game losing streak. Losses to Colorado, Philadelphia, and Washington since the opening of the season for the Oilers here, losing 6-0, 5-2, and 4-1 to the Jets, Hawks, and Flames respectively here. So they haven't lost 4 games in a row all season there, but still a very, very tough mountain to climb. But you know what? There is a positive. I've been negative all video. I try not to be negative all the time here, but when it comes to the Oilers, they make it hard for me to love this team sometimes. But still 5th in the entire National Hockey League, and if that's not something to smile about at the end of the day, I don't know what is. But folks, that is it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about today's game, what you thought about this weekend as a whole, and just your thoughts on the entire team, the entire franchise as a whole, because we have a number of games before the trade deadline here, and as Stan Bowman's first trade deadline as GM, it'll be a very tough one for him to navigate. But we all know what the Oilers need. Hopefully it clicks in his mind as well. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone. Take care. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm Matt.